Proportional Response. Book 1, Chapter 24, Part 3, Conversations Hidden in Plain Sight. Inable sat in silence, trying to keep his bored facade up while Yoro did whatever she did when she became absorbed in those glasses after he'd asked her if chamber rules prevented the Penigra from using more than one point of order in a session. She sat there for a few more minutes, her eyes darting back and forth, and then they grew wide and she spoke in a hushed tone.
Okay, your turn to shake your head. Look like you are annoyed because I have been ignoring you. Good. Now, you are brilliant. There is actually precedent for it. One of the reasons the whole point of order thing got suppressed was that there was an ambassador who burned through 15 of them in a single session. She was, apparently, annoyed that some vote she'd put forth failed, and was determined not to let anything at all get done until she ran out of tokens, or she got her way. Even better though, the tokens can't be used to shut down a general session the way that he has been shutting down these special sessions.
After a few moments, her face fell.
Still, this would only allow us to move things a little faster, and the bird may decide to let the occasional measure through, after the Exaltans have had the chance to change tactics.
Enable sighed.
Well, it is better than what we are doing now, and will even give us, Henry, a little momentum when everyone sees his side get one up on the Penigra. We just need a way.
Enable's screen pinged, and he looked over to find a message waiting. From Henry. It was addressed to Yoro, officially in her capacity as the Council's semi-official go-to for all technicalities of Council procedure. When did she take that role on, anyway? He thought about it for a few moments, then shrugged to himself while he half paid attention to the uncharacteristically long message from Henry. I guess it has happened organically over time. I'll have to speak to Kaz about it. I think she should have an official position when he makes Prime Minister. He allowed himself a small chuckle. She will claim to hate the idea, of course, and part of her will. But part of her will be pleased to have her intelligence and hard work acknowledged. His thoughts stopped dead as Yoro froze the text on the screen and began almost frantically swiping her hands through the air. He could see text flashing across her glasses so fast it almost seemed to blur. He looked at the frozen text on the platform screen and felt his own eyes go wide. It was a summary of some session where they had used a plurality, not even a lesser majority of the full council, just a plurality of those present, to declare another yet-to-be-held session immune to a point of order interruption. This combined with what Yoro and I were just discussing. Make a General Assembly a minefield for the Penigras and the Zoltans, where they don't know what we will throw at them, nor how many points it will cost them, and then make him mill through his points, stopping these immunity votes in smaller session. This could work. Yoro abruptly stopped waving her hands, turned to look at him, gave him a sly smile, and nodded. Several others seemed to be paying them some small level of attention, but it didn't matter. He leaned back and let himself smile. Fnth Onza flashed the hologram in her hand toward the Baitha guarding the gate to the starport's indenture processing area and ducked her head. She stayed in line with the refugees from various races as they all trudged towards the waiting ships. She liked the new protocols better than the old ones in some ways. She didn't have to keep coming up with money to bribe gatekeepers, and not having to deal with a testy tish. Still, being able to go in a back door and not have to shuffle along with everyone else had its charm. The Beatha handed her a set of papers which, if she'd been a refugee, would have told her which ship she was supposed to get on and served as her boarding pass. Instead, he handed her a stack of papers which consisted of boarding passes for all ships, as well as details about their itineraries. She looked quickly through the list and found one headed in the direction she wanted to go. At least all those damned lessons Mendish made me sit through have counted for something. I know all the planets of the Republic and about where they are. Memorizing all that wasn't easy, but it has paid off. It didn't take long for her to get on board her selected ship and find a corner to be unnoticed in. Well, she thought she'd be unnoticed. As the ship lifted from its berth, another Zoltan sat down next to her with a huff. She looked the man up and down with a cold eye, lest he get any weird ideas about a female traveling alone. The man gave her an unassuming look in return and raised a hand as if to emphasize his lack of threat. She pulled her hood over her face and leaned back to get some sleep. But the damned man spoke. She would have ignored him and gone on to sleep, but his greeting contained certain keywords. She gave him her best side-eye and answered in a quiet voice that wouldn't carry.
I don't want to know who you are, chum, and I don't need your help, your protection, nor whatever idle chatter you want to try and slake your boredom with. You want to flap your jaws? Go somewhere else.
The man didn't look offended nor annoyed. He smiled slightly and, matching her near-silent voice, just rattled off a handful of code phrases, not even bothering to work them into sentences. She rolled her eyes, looked around, stood, and walked to a lavatory so that they could have a few minutes of privacy. Once they'd squeezed into the space and locked the door, she gave him a level stare.
Eek, nice.
The man gave her a wan smile.
They told me you had to raise yourself and weren't much for social niceties. It is always interesting when a report manages to be spot on.
I don't have time for this. She considered pushing around him to go back out into the cargo hold and... What? Okay. Fine. Maybe I have time. I just don't have the patience. His smile widened slightly.
Very well. I wish I could say that you weren't easy to find, but the trail of dead voters in your wake isn't really hard to follow. Not if you know what you are looking for.
She lashed her tail.
Do you have a purpose for seeking me out, or did you just want to stand there and blather your social niceties?
He cocked his head slightly in apparent amusement.
It is a 3-day trip to our next destination. What is your rush? I would think you might be glad of someone to talk to at this point.
She moved to push by him, and the man sighed.
Okay, fine. I'll get to the point, or points. First, Mendesh doesn't want you to kill Agrand. I mean, he really doesn't want you to. And, before you start, yes, I have seen the video by Kegot. Hell, I've even talked to the man, and I can tell you that he doesn't want Agrand assassinated either.
That caused her to step back a moment in surprise. Then her eyes narrowed. He is lying. He held up both hands.
No, I am telling you the truth. You see, Kegot understands some things about voters you don't. Namely, that most would rather die than be embarrassed, the way this man has been. Normally the voters would strip him of his voting rights and let him throw himself off a cliff. But the man belongs to a family that is one of the few who oppose Jalat. So, he lingers in his shame, an object lesson that everyone can point to.
She lifted one corner of her mouth in a not quite snarl.
And I care why? Because Kegot's message is far more effective if there is a live voter living in his shame than a dead one who will soon be forgotten. There is a bigger picture here than...
She made for the door.
Not for me.
The man had to be one of Mendesh's intel boys, put himself between her and the door. From the look on his face, he knew the risk he took doing so. Okay, fine. If he has enough of a tail to do that, I guess I can hear him out. She leaned against the wall, crossed her arms, lowered her snout slightly, wrapped her tail around her feet, and gave him her best unsettling stare as she imagined ways to kill him. He didn't look fazed in the slightest.
Okay, fine. Not for you. Still, like I said, he will suffer more if you leave him alive. Killing him at this point would be a mercy. They have him under suicide watch. Did you know that?
She shook her head and shrugged. He looked annoyed and continued.
Also, you should know that it is a trap. The voters' intel people have finally strung your bodies together and figured out your profile. So they have quite the reception waiting for you to go after him. Not with the intention of stopping you, from what I hear. Just to find out who you are so that they can come after you later. Still not convinced, huh? What if I told you I had a better target for you? One who has a penchant for taking and hurting little girls. I'd want to know what you and yours get out of it. I suppose the voter is highly placed and a high-value target for you. Well, of course he is. Why would we be going to all the effort of having a spy? And I am one of the better ones, I assure you. Sacrifice 3 days on a transport ship with refugees just to point our best assassin at him if he wasn't high value.
She chuffed at him.
So, that is your game now? Give me targets you want and tell me that they have done things I don't like.
He produced a data crystal and handed it to her.
Close, but not exactly. Other than this one target, We will give you lists of targets we would like you to take down, as well as proof that they have done the sorts of things that get them on your list. In exchange for going after the targets on the lists we give you, we'll offer your further support. Things like ID cards, floor plans, thermal shielders, and other tools that you have been scrounging to make your life more survivable. We will also give you back your team.
Oh, wrong move, bucko.
Give me? Give me? Those men are loyal to me, and if you'd tell me where they are, I'd have my team with me already. No, that is not part of any bargain we may make here, Mendeshlicker. You either give me their locations and assignments this instant, or you get the hell out of my way.
She shifted her weight slightly.
Or you can face the consequences.
The man had the good grace to look chagrined at least.
I told them ploy wouldn't work.
He handed her another data crystal.
There. Everything you need to gather your troop back together. No strings attached.
She snatched the crystal from him, slightly mollified, and pushed through the door.